Hello, Richard Lehwald. Thank you for joining us here today, and we have some really exciting information for you, and we want to just share you from a happy place. We want you to have a happy, great life. Harold Derbitsky, right?
That's right.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us today. And we had an amazing meeting about a month ago. Walked into a restaurant, and it was this group of people sitting at the table, and we were then joined with them. And then Harry and I and my wife, we had a great conversation at that point. Share this information with the world because people need it, and that's where we come from. Okay, so Harry, tell us about yourself.
Harold Derbitsky, President of Advanced Coaches Training, international consultant. I specialize in various areas: indigenous world of addiction, and general mental health. And what I teach people are the spiritual psychology of the three principles as uncovered by Sydney Banks. I teach people to be happy and content. I teach them to understand that feeling inside themselves is what they're looking for. And the words that I am speaking are not that relevant. The feeling that I'm trying to touch is what is important. Anybody can have fancy words, but to have a feeling of life and then to point the person to their health. So when I talk to people in addiction or any other world, I'm talking to the health of the person. I don't see problems. I'm not there to fix them. I'm there to point them to their own wisdom inside themselves, and then they'll heal themselves. So that, to me, is the key to being a good helper in spirit, in psychology, and the connection of those two worlds. And that's what you want. You want to have an answer that resonates within you, that makes sense. So in the end, it's called common sense.
And that's where we seem to have lacked today. Like you say, there's language and specialists in many different areas, but it makes it very hard for people to attain because they feel that they have to live up to some particular level. And the way I see it with many people is that they already know the answers. We just have to make them aware of the answers.
Yeah, they actually know the answers already. So to make them aware of it is actually just pointing them to their own wisdom.
Right.
It will resonate with them. If it resonates with them, then what happens is they go, they get this ooh, feeling. And that is what we're looking for. So when they have an insight, Richard was talking about at the age of 60, he had an insight, and it transformed his whole life. All of a sudden, his life became more inspirational. It wasn't just the fluke that he changed his mind. What happened was he actually had a spiritual insight. Every insight is spiritual, whether it applies to the psychological, material, or spiritual realm. Mm-hmm. And he changed. And he doesn't probably even understand why he changed, except he knows he was following something that felt better.
Yeah, it's kind of like intuition, right? You follow intuition in life. And the more we open up at that level, it's kind of like you go and follow the light, right? Yeah. The light projects before you, you maybe see 20 feet in front of you, okay? So it's like, it's dark out there, and you're going to drive your car. You turn the lights on, okay, you see that far, well, that allows you to move that amount forward. But the light keeps on projecting. It keeps on leading you and guiding you. So it's always in those first steps. You give them a little bit of light, take the steps, you know?
So what Richard is pointing towards is really important. The world worships the intellect, but it's in the quieting of the intellect that the intuition speaks to us. So when Richard felt his intuition, he was really using the common sense, or what I call the wisdom of within what all human beings have. We don't want to be intellectual giants. We want to use the intellect in the way it was intended, it was designed. And it is designed to be quiet when intuition is speaking. And it's like walking in nature. If you're thinking all the time in your head, there is no nature. All there is the thoughts in your head. But when they quiet down, all of a sudden you go, ooh, that's beautiful, or that feels good, or there's the light that I need to follow. And that's correct. So that's what you're looking for, intuition rather than intellectual information.
Right. Yeah, and so often people think that they need them to go back to school to learn all these things, and what do we end up getting? More programming. There are people that I understand that come out of the jungles. They have a lot of wisdom. They understand life because they connected with nature, and we are nature. And so the biggest problem today, when people are living in mass cities and they don't know, they think that, okay, for example, where do you get milk? Call it Safeway or Save On Foods or whatever over here. But where's it come from? What's the source? They get in disconnect from those sources. Or where's your broccoli come from? Well, again, the store. No, it comes from a deeper source, right? So when we understand the sources where these life energies that come to us that kind of keeps us going, we make that reconnect. And when we see the depth, and maybe you go visit a farm and you start looking at this, wow, that's amazing. And then you see the energy that's gone into it to grow it and so on. Oh my goodness. Maybe then we get more of an appreciation, okay, for the small things in life. So when we start appreciating things more, better it is. Because otherwise, if we're not appreciating, I always say we are depreciating. And that's what we can do for ourselves, all the things around us. And so when we're just connected with the material world, but we're not connected with the energy sources behind it, how nature behaves it. And we spend so much time nowadays in staring at our cell phones, computers, whatever, laptops, and it's in a way we are staring into the abyss because we get just more programming and so on. And then our minds get to be hijacked. They get mutilated by the forms that are being thought or the ideas that are being brought to us. And then we get terrorized. We are living so often in fear. And again, fear can be redefined so often as false evidence appearing real. And so it's the boogeyman thing, right? If you do this, you get scared. No. But when we get more connected, you actually, with truth, if you get more connected with truth, it starts to resonate. And it gives you life, because the energies, life gives life, right? So we're born alive to live a life, so let's live life. So when we undo the shackles that are on us, okay, and we can break through that, and it begins perhaps in one area, but then more will be brought before you. So by sharing some of this information, if it makes sense, I mean, Harry's got a great background, lots of videos, contact with him and find out how you can do it. He's got a new book that he's just published and that he's eager to get out there. The answers are often very simple, but we make it complex because that's what we're told. It's complex. We need the experts.
Yeah, let's look at that for a second. Why do we make it complex? So when Richard first talked, you have to go someplace and you're doing different things. You're using your intellect properly in that concept, because to remember Richard's name, I have to go into my intellect and all the activities that I do. But once those activities are done, the way we function means we then turn that off. We don't need it at that point. And as Richard, who's a creative human being, gets into the creativity, he finds that if he would think too much, he would actually distort the experience. He would color it over with these thoughts. And so that's what people are doing. They're not actually experiencing the life in the moment. What they're doing is they're experiencing their thoughts in the moment. But that is not a creative process or an intuitive process. That is a intellectual process, because our thinking is filtering everything from seeing the reality. So when I come here, I deliberately don't prepare. I deliberately have an empty mind. The reason I do that is because what Richard and I are talking about is you have to have an alive feeling in the moment. If you don't have that, then what's the sense of living? So this alive feeling in the moment answers all our questions. Funny, when we're in a low mood, it seems to have a lot of problems. Yet when we're alive in the moment, there are no problems because we're not thinking about them. And so we then have to learn how to use our intellect in a constructive. So it's the right use of the mind or the wrong use of the mind. And it's as simple as that. And when you use your mind in the right way, what happens is good luck follows you. I used the word earlier with Richard, magic happens, or mystical happens. And definition of mystical, beyond the understanding of the intellect. So we want to delve into our feelings, and the freer we are with that, life is easy. So here's a message for you. All problems are caused by overthinking. All problems. And everybody knows that. And yet, as what Richard's saying, yet they're worshiping the overthinking. Right. With the activity and the computer and this and that. And I do it too. So sure. Welcome to the human race.
Yeah. So I said, it's our stinking thinking that gets us into trouble all the time. So don't overthink, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're in kind of a condition, you say, oh my goodness, right? You get scared from the thoughts that are there. I think the best thing to do, is to say, laughter is the best medicine. Laugh it off, right? And my goodness. Because when you let go, and when you really, I sometimes just have to turn on a stupid show where it's just stupid things happening, like, there's all kinds of them out there. And I just laugh until I'm tearing, and my body's just vibrating from the laughter. What a release. Just kind of feels go. I feel like clean. I feel, I feel really energized, relax even. So have a good laugh, right?
and what Richard's saying, like when I started working in the field of addiction, the first thing I noticed was how serious people were. They were really working hard. They'd give anything to be off the addiction, and they were working hard at it. And the first thing I said to them was, lighten up. You can't get anything through a serious feeling, except more seriousness.
Yeah.
So laughter cleanses,
yes,
releases our connection to the soul or to the spirit inside yourself, or what we call wisdom. The spirit inside yourself, wisdom, same thing. And when we access this wisdom, we start to see, we heal ourselves with our own understanding. And as our understanding rises, we get to allow that process to happen. And that's what Richard was alluding to with this alive feeling. What happened is his understanding rose, and then things made more sense, what to do.
Right.
Before, his understanding was lower, so he had a lot of conflicted thinking, what the world was telling him to think.
Right.
And then one day, he at 60 or whatever it was, he just said, actually, I can just be Richard.
Exactly.
And Richard is good being Richard, because I can't be anyone else anyway, It's not that he's perfect for Richard. Mm-hmm. I'm perfect for Harry.
Yeah, and it's each one of us, we go through our journey, and we're learning, and then as we, bounce off each other with different ideas and experiences, it's kind of like, when you go into the river, and you find, these little smooth rocks. So how did they get smoothened out? Well, up on top of the mountain, wherever the stream came from, there were big rocks that just dislodged, and then they go roll and tumble, and then as they rub it against each other, and the water is kind of the lubricant in between it, and over time, it's smoothing things out, right? So there's a way, that's what happened. We all come in, we all have some rough edges, but as we go through this journey of life, kind of let those things fall off, we'll become smoother, and at the end of the road, hey, we can keep on smiling, right?
Right.
And we've got this wonderful experience, because it is. Life is an experience, okay? And we're given this opportunity to have a great experience. So, and what you were alluding to is like, okay, everybody's on, you got to know this, knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. But it's knowledge and understanding gives us the wisdom. And the more wisdom you have. So that's why often elderly people, they say respect your elders. So there are those that are there that are elders. They have a lot of wisdom. Learn from them.
Sometimes.
Sometimes, I know. The problem sometimes is they start to lose it at that point. And then they don't make sense anymore. So if we maybe catch them at the right time. But anyways, it's, you know, we can share and we can contribute in this life. And that's what it's all about. That's what we love doing here.
You bring up a really important point. If you share good feelings, you're going to grow. That's a primary principle of life. The problem people have is they're not sharing good feelings, and thus they're feeling inadequate within themselves. If you have an insight or an understanding and you don't share it because you don't want to give it away, you're really holding yourself back. Because how can you open up to the expanse of not knowing, which is really the reality that we're sitting in, unless we share? And when I share with Richard or he shares with me, it's not only that we have a good time, but we're actually expanding our consciousness together. And what I define that as, that's universal mind.
Right.
And we get mentored by universal mind.
Yes.
And that feels better than anything else in the world because it's new, it's alive, and it's true. And true is what I want. I'm tired of false. I'm tired of things that I was told I was supposed to do in life. I tried to do it. I tried to be ambitious. You know, when I was ambitious, Richard, all I attracted was failure. The moment I gave up my ambition was the moment life started coming to me, financially, projects, etc. The reason was I was on the make. I was pretending.
Right.
And as long as I was pretending, well, you know, other people felt it. I was insecure, and you use the word fearful. That's what I attracted. And then when I gave up the ambition, just was myself, I attracted the other. And what happened, I went for I had no money, zero money. I had just this insight about giving up this ambition. I was just going to be myself. And I had a job, not a contract interview with this guy who took $1 million bonus every year for himself. And I had $0 in the bank. And my problem was I was always trying to answer the question the way I thought they wanted to hear. And I saw them here and me here. He had $1 million, that's his bonus, not even his stuff. I had zero. So and I went into this interview, this is so truthful, and the first second was this. I said, oh no, I'm not doing that anymore. And I went to this, and we started to talk, and you know what happened, Richard? He started thinking I had as much money as him because I was comfortable talking with him. And I walked out with a $5,000 check.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, boy, that is easy.
Yeah.
But that's insecurity versus security. And that's what we're looking for. Everybody's beautiful. Everybody's secure if they can see the truth. And if you're going to follow what other people are telling you and you can't do things and all that stuff, and you've got problems and you have to examine your trauma and all that stuff, you'll examine it in a failure mode. Look at your own beauty. Feel your own beauty, your own positive feelings. Life becomes easier. My story is true. And I'll tell you, I would have fought nails to say that it couldn't be that easy. I would have fought you on it, Richard. If you, no, just relax, Harry, and just be yourself. I would have fought you tooth and nails because I had all this belief. And then the bubble.
Right. Well, it's, again, so often we're conditioned to, you need to be this is what you need to do, and anything else is impossible, okay? And I always tell people like this, there's just one small shift that we need to make in that word. And words are power. The language we use, we keep on telling ourselves certain things. We're limiting ourselves. But to go from impossible to I am possible, what a small shift, okay? So if there are limiting things, just look at it from a different way. And yes, we have examples of other people around us. It's like, okay, this person is successful, but there are many people, there's an appearance of success because of how we measure that. But the key is be happy. Right?
And content.
And content, exactly. Yeah. And then you could live in the jungle, have simple things in life, but it's sufficient. You can enjoy it. You have lots of life around you. And then when we live in the concrete jungles, it's all material things. And then today, I think that a lot of the self-focus is, the word selfies comes out. And that's a big thing. Everybody's taking selfies and posting their selfies. They're trying to express themselves as being someone. But again, if we take a microscopic thing in terms of the state of soul, the heart, again, is that person really truly happy? Because they're trying to express themselves so hard to make an impact on it. It's kind of let go of that. Just be yourself, be happy, know who you are. You're here with a purpose, intentions. Make that count. Make your life count. And it's all totally possible. Don't limit yourself, because we are living still in a framework of time and everything else that puts us. But kind of just, again, let go. You make that decision, whatever your number is, and say, I'm not that. I'm going to change. You can make that decision. That's all it takes. So be aware, and hopefully with this information we're sharing, we can raise people's level of awareness. It's not impossible, but I am possible. You are possible. So come from that mindset, try it, you like it. Not even just try it, just do it. Right?
So when someone says, well, I've been dealt a bad deck of cards, and what you're saying sounds really nice, because it's easy for you to do, but for me, I'm experiencing the hardships, like life. I got a bad illness, or I have a divorce, or I have a bankruptcy, and so. What would you say to someone like that?
Well, it's you created that.
Yes, but so. You're in
Undo it. Just change your thinking on that.
I'll tell you one thing. Like there's two ways. Mm-hmm. There's the spiritual answer and the psychological answer. Okay. So I'm going to give you both.
All right.
The spiritual answer, which is the way I look at it, everything is designed perfectly. It brings you. As soon as you understand that it was brought to you for a reason, God's mm-hmm. reason. Mine, by my definition, is a psychological word for God. So God has brought you this experience because you need it.
Yes.
That changes the whole dynamic to I'm personally suffering because it's perfectly designed. And if you can go along with that, of course, you can see the heartache of it would be much, much less. On the psychological level, a thought creates a feeling. Mm-hmm. So what happens is whatever thought you have is going to create a feeling, and if you have a negative thought, it's going to create a negative feeling, and your mental health is going to suffer. Now, everybody knows if your mental health goes down, you're not going to be able to handle the situation. So as your level of consciousness rises, you see the outside influences are not the cause of you feeling bad. It's your thought. And as you see that it's your thought about the interpretation of the event is what's creating it, it frees you. Because who's the thinker, Richard? You're the thinker of your world, I'm the thinker. And that's when you get into just change your mind or just change the pattern. The reality of it is thought is neutral, and what we put into it mm-hmm. actually creates the feelings we experience. So if people are suffering and they see psychologically that they want to be free, what they have to do is go inside and experience the freedom that of understanding that thought creates a feeling. My thought creates my feeling. And then that changes the game, because then it's actually not that I'm bankrupt that's creating my feeling. It's my thought about the bankruptcy that creates my feeling. And you know yourself, sometimes the worst situation in life, and you had a good attitude towards it, was a lot easier to work through it. And then it just flows. That's why it's perfectly designed. Once you have a good attitude towards your bad situation, you become free of it. The hooks, the triggers, the attachments, the beliefs about it, what everybody else is telling you to do about it. Because in the end, the biggest joke of all, you have to find the answer to your own puzzle.
It's true.
I'd love to tell you the answer, Richard, for you, but of course, the answer is I can't.
Exactly.
I can't. It's impossible.
We all have the answers for ourselves, and that's the key.
That's really a fundamental key.
Yes, yes. Well, there you've had a little bit of an introduction, and it was wonderful to be able to share and have Harry give us his insight into that. And then don't forget to look up. And Harry, share your book.
It's been out for about a month. It's all over the world. It's in about 15 recovery centers now, and many, many people are reading it. And what I've loved the most so far is not only the help it's given, but a lot of people are reading the book from the beginning to end. Usually a book about addiction is not that interesting, but I do have that. And in the book, I have 2 chapters on the indigenous world, the collision of the indigenous world with addiction, and also a sharing of an indigenous ceremony of which I partake in, of which wisdom is shared in this regard from an indigenous perspective, a healing perspective. That's what we're talking about. Richard's talking about healing, not talking about fixing your problem, healing. And that's what the indigenous world is all about, healing. Healing and spirit, that's their world. And so it has a lot of help. I call it a healing book, so on addiction. There you go. And it is written about 5 years ahead of its time. In 5 years, the book will sell more than it, even though it's doing well now, will more than in I believe that. Whether it's true or not, we'll find out.
Well, that's your energy you put into the book. So your belief
that's
right. Happen, right?
My thought.
Yes.
That's right. Exactly.
And when you really look at it, it's not that big a book. Not that thick. We're not, again, trying a lot of intellectual content in here. It's just probably all simple insight, okay, for you to be able to grasp that and help to set you free. So I really recommend get a hold of this book and free yourself, live a life, okay? Because again, you're born alive to have a life, so let's get on and live your lives. So we want to thank you for having joined us today here. Thank you for Harry sharing this information and your great book, and we'll do it again.
Okay.
Have a good day.
The next show should be Where the Spirit Leads Us. And we can talk a little, because we talked a little bit about problems and a little bit of now where the Spirit leads us. We can call that the theme of the next show. Let's do it.